We're going to move on to the town manager's report. I'm going to turn it over to you, Colin.
Thank you. I'd like to start by congratulating the Tyngsborough High School class of 2026. I look forward to celebrating graduation with them on Friday. And congratulations to Greater Lowell Technical High School class of 2026, who will walk across the stage next Tuesday. And Innovation Academy celebrated their graduation this past weekend. I also want to thank our Veteran Services Director, Chris Derry, and Ada Sierra from his office for the work that went into this year's Memorial Day motorcade. A huge thank you to the Tyngsborough American Legion Post 247 for the huge role that they play in the program every year, particularly this year in the less than desirable weather. And thank you, of course, to the members of this board and the public that joined us as we showed our appreciation to the men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our country. You may have noticed by now that construction of the new cold storage building for the Department of Public Works is well underway. DPW staff spent the early part of the spring prepping the site, and over the course of the last couple of weeks, the manufacturer has been dropping off and setting the blocks that will become the foundation for the building. When complete, this new cold storage unit will allow us to get all of our equipment out of the elements, which will result in a much more organized yard and allow us to extend the life of our most expensive equipment. As a reminder, this was funded by a $450,000 ARPA investment, the American Rescue Plan Act, as well as a $120,000 mitigation payment and a $75,000 earmark for the legislature. So we're excited to see that project come to a close. We expect it will be totally complete by the middle of July, weather permitting. This week, with the assistance of the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, we'll kick off our hazard mitigation plan update. This work is a collaboration between the Department of Public Works and my office and will help us maintain compliance with FEMA regulations that require municipalities to have an active plan. The work has been funded through a technical assistance grant issued through NIMCOG. 2 weeks ago, we convened all department heads for a meeting to review the results of our communication survey and work on developing a revitalized strategy. In the coming days, we'll be launching the new DPW Facebook account, and by early July, we'll launch the Center for Active Living account. Those were the two, as you remember, departments that we saw the most interest in seeing appear on social media. We've also had initial discussions about updating tyngsborough.gov, and I look forward to sharing the results of that early into the new fiscal year. Town staff convened a meeting with the developer at 93 Kendall Road late last month to talk about a potential change to their project that they believe would allow them to continue construction while electric supply challenges are further addressed. This board met with National Grid about capacity issues a few weeks ago, and so you're familiar with that. Under the potential change, they would break their second warehouse into two smaller buildings, which would allow them to find tenants with lower energy needs, all without delaying progress. This change would require planning board approval, but I wanted to give you a heads up that they're proactively working around ways to address the issue. Additionally, tomorrow I'll meet with them in Boston with representatives from National Grid as well as the Department of Public Utilities to talk about broader strategies to solve not just this particular parcel, but as they look at other parcels in the area, not just in Tyngsborough. Certainly our focus tomorrow will be on how we get capacity that they need for 93 Kendall. A couple weeks ago, I met with the Council on Aging to discuss a potential shift in hours at the Center for Active Living. We're looking at potentially matching the town hall hours to allow for the Council on Aging to have more evening programming with staff assistants. As we've talked about before, right now, all of the evening programming done at the Center for Active Living is done exclusively by volunteers from the Council on Aging. That's because the staff hours are dedicated to the center's operating hours, which right now don't include evenings. Under this potential shift, we'd be looking to keep the center open till 8 p.m. on Wednesdays, which aligns with their current evening programming, and that would have them closing at 12 p.m. on Fridays. That would still allow us to run the bus, which is an important aspect for seniors. There would still be services in the morning. In order to make sure that we're not very far off from what our residents want, we'll be launching a survey beginning on Monday of next week. That survey will be available digitally as well as in hard copy at the Center for Active Living, in Town Hall here, and then also in the library. So really simple survey, 3 questions, just trying to find out if residents would be interested in that. And our goal is that if that is successful and there is interest, we'd be talking to the select board in July about the change and hopefully implementing that as we onboard a new director in early August. On a staffing front, speaking of, last week we posted the Director of Elder Services position. As the board knows, Barbara Roach has announced her retirement effective July 31st. Our goal is to have the position filled before Barbara leaves so that we can have a short transition period. Folks interested in the position should send a resume and cover letter to hr@tyngsborough.gov by June 17th. There's a full job posting on our website. Today, actually, we completed the final second round interviews for the vacant executive assistant position in our office. I expect that we'll be able to make an offer at some point later this week or early next week, which is something that Sean and I are both incredibly excited about. On the grants front, the Tyngsborough Police Department was recently awarded a $3,000 grant from the United States Justice Department through its Bulletproof Vest Partnership Program. This allows the town using federal funds to replace bulletproof vests. The fire department was once again awarded a Safe and Senior Safe grant from the Commonwealth. This annual grant allows the department to do extensive public education both in the school department and at the Center of Active Living and also in the community for our aging population. Those educational opportunities focus on fire safety and emergency preparedness. And then just a few upcoming events. I'm thrilled about a new exciting program that our recreation department is hosting. The event is called Morning Miles, and it's quite simple. Join your neighbors every Monday and Wednesday at Ironwood Park for a morning walk. The walking starts at 7:30 a.m. and ends with coffee in the clubhouse or on the deck. There's no registration required, and I've challenged our town staff to join me at the first one, which starts Monday, June 8th, 7:30. So if any of you are free and want to get some miles in with us. When all said and done, it's about 2 miles if you do the whole walk with them, but of course you do as much as you're able. The Recreation Committee on June 11th will host country line dancing. Instruction will start at 6 p.m. and dancing will kick off promptly at 7 p.m. That's at the Ironwood Clubhouse. On June 13th, the Health Department, in collaboration with NEFA, which is our regional health alliance for which Tyngsborough serves as the lead community, will host a community baby shower at the Old Town Hall. This program is designed to provide resources and support to those who are expecting parents. No registration is required, and we encourage everyone who would benefit to attend. The event will run from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and will feature giveaways, resources, and much more. They're also accepting donations in a box here in the lobby through the end of this week if you're able to donate. You can contact the Health Department for more information by calling 978-649-2300, extension 118. The Tyngsborough Public Library's summer reading program begins on June 22nd, 2026, and runs through August 17th. Readers of all ages, adults, teens, children, and their families can track their reading and earn rewards. Summer reading isn't just a great way to keep the kids busy while school is out, it's also a fantastic excuse for adults to discover new books, join the community fund, and win prizes donated by local businesses. Visit tinglib.org/summer to sign up. That's TYNGLIB.org/summer. Thank you, Chance, for the ad. On June 25th, the town of Tyngsborough will dedicate the Veterans Memorial Common in the town center in honor of Marine Corporal Paul Nick King per vote of this board at its last meeting. Corporal King was killed in the line of duty on June 25th, 2006, and this year marks the 20th anniversary of his passing. At the same time, we'll dedicate Tyngsborough's first Global War on Terrorism Memorial, which will join the existing memorials. The event will start at 6 p.m. and all are encouraged to attend.
We received a request for comment from the Planning Board regarding 401 Dunstable Road. This request is for an appeal of the Building Commissioner's decision related to a zoning violation, cease and desist letter back from April. Typically, the board does not generally comment on these matters, but I mention it now for your awareness. If it is something like you'd like to discuss further and provide comment for, we're happy to put it on your agenda for your next meeting on the 15th. On the procurement front, the town is currently seeking responses to an RFP, request for proposals for document digitization services for documents currently housed in the Winslow School. As you may recall, we received a grant for digitization of these documents from the Commonwealth, with submissions due to our office next week on Tuesday. Additionally, we've also posted an invitation for bids for qualified firms to provide an on-call and emergency sewer services for the town for the upcoming fiscal year, with bids due this week, Wednesday, June 3rd. All procurement documents for IFBs, RFPs, anything we have public are available on our website, tyngsboroughma.gov/bids.aspx. And then finally, the opioid task force, utilizing some of the funds we received through settlements with major opioid companies over the past few years, is utilizing some of those funds at AMC. We're running an ad, a 30-second ad, both in the lobby and before movie previews that highlight state and local resources available for those seeking help with opiate addiction and substance abuse. And this ad campaign will be featured at AMC through the late fall into December of this year. That's it.
Thank you both so much. I'll open it up to the board for questions and comments. I'll start over here. Select Person Kalabokis.
Thank you. I have just two questions. 93 Kendall Road, we said that they're going to break their second building into two smaller buildings. How many buildings in total are they planning on building there?
The original plan called for 2 buildings, a much larger warehouse and a smaller one. They previously got approval from the planning board to change the phasing, so they built their smaller building first. That's the one you can kind of see if you get off Route 3 at the Kendall Road exit.
Yep.
And their next phase was to build the larger warehouse. Although they've not yet applied to the planning board, they were exploring the possibility of breaking that second building into two. So if that's the route they go, there would be a total of 3 buildings on the site.
And
The square footage would remain basically
that
the
was-
same.
Okay, okay. And then this request for comment, what does that mean?
I'll just steal this one from Sean only because I helped write this cease and desist letter. So when regulatory boards have action before them as a courtesy, and you do this when Sean manages a license application for you, out of courtesy, we send a request for comment to any board that may have an opinion on it. So we ask planning, we also do it for departments, police and fire. It is a courtesy that the regulatory boards, conservation, zoning, and planning do. They send it to you and say, if there's anything you want us to know about this, let us know. That's generally most helpful on a development project. So for instance, if the select board had entered into, say, a development agreement, which you've done a couple of in the last 5 years, that would be something you would advise the planning board or the zoning board about. Generally, though, the select board doesn't make a comment. It lets the individual boards or committees make their own decision. But the request for a comment is simply just, if you want to say anything about this, if you want to give us your opinion one way or another, you could. Again, the board has generally not done that.
So the board doesn't have any decision-making authority, it's just give us your feedback.
Correct.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Select Person Galabocas. Select Person Coughlin.
No, actually, I was just, the only question I had was on the Dunstable Road and the no comment. It was very nicely explained.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Select Person Eldridge.
Thank you again for a detailed update. I think it's great for residents. I keep hearing lots of times about transparency and being able to know what's going on. This is still the best way to find out what's going on, in addition to watching this meeting and all the joys that it has. But thank you for the update. I am interested to see the details for what we come up with on the communication survey. I think it's one of our huge goals. It's something that we want to sit there and figure out how we continually do better. Even though we make big improvements and things are better, there's still a long way to go. So I really look forward to the results. Thank you.
Thank you, Select Person Eldridge. Select Person Marino.
Sure, a couple things. Lots of great events going on right now, so thank you to staff and a lot of volunteers who are helping out with that. Great to see all that. 93 Kendall Road, good to see that is moving along. I think when National Grid came and presented to the board, they talked about some capacity projects that could be in the works. Sounds like those projects wouldn't only benefit Tyngsborough, but also Chelmsford, Westford, so it could be worth reaching out to those communities as well and seeing if we can pressure those projects to happen. Glad to hear that you're gathering input about the Council on Aging developments there. And then 401 Dunstable Road, could you just provide an update as to that process and how it's transpiring? I actually have heard from a few people who are interested about that site, so.
So 401 Dunstable is the lot that's on the corner of Westford and Dunstable. If you're going toward the Center for Active Living, it's on your right at that intersection. There's a bunch of storage containers there right now and construction equipment. The building department received a complaint that the use on that site did not match its zoning. And in the building commissioner's determination, it is correct. That site is currently being used as a construction yard, and it is not a permissible use under the town zoning bylaws. The building commissioner, acting on a written complaint, issued a cease and desist notice to both the operator of the site, who was leasing it from the actual owner, and the owner. Anytime a building commissioner takes an enforcement action using their statutory authority, you're entitled to appeal first to the local zoning board of appeals or ultimately to a court. So the first step is an appeal to the ZBA. The ZBA will have to hear from the appellant, who in this case I believe is the property owner, basically making a case that in fact what they're doing there is a allowed use. The building commissioner will be allowed to explain why he or she believes it's not an allowed use, and then ultimately the ZBA will either uphold the enforcement action, in this case the cease and desist and the violation, or overturn it and say that it in fact is an allowed use. One of the things that people often don't realize is that all of our regulatory departments, the health department, conservation, building, they have a legal obligation to follow up on written complaints. Anonymous complaints don't typically go as far under Mass state law. So this is the result of us receiving a formal complaint and acting on it, and now it's just working its way through the process where the zoning board will ultimately decide whether or not they agree with the building commissioner's decision, and depending on that, if either party disagrees, quite frankly, it could go to the court if necessary, though that's rare.
And if it did make it to that point, would our comment, if we chose to comment, would that have any impact, or is it?
If it made it to the court, I'd advise the board not to comment because you ultimately control who you do or do not defend. While it would be incredibly rare for the building commissioner to sue the zoning board of appeals, you would find yourself in a sticky situation where you'd have to decide whether or not to authorize the defense of a regulatory board or a regulatory agent. So for that unique circumstance, I would say weighing in might not make sense. Certainly, though, if the zoning board of appeals upholds the building commissioner's decision and the owner of the property or the operator of the property sought to litigate it, you would essentially be weighing in and by authorizing town council to represent the building commissioner. But at that point, you'd have gone through the ZBA process, and so there would be no formal comment opportunity.
Sure. All right, understood. Thank you. Lots of great stuff.
Thank you, Select Person Marino. Thank you, Colin. I had a question and a comment. Nope, the question's been answered about 401. The community baby shower, I am delighted that we're doing this, and this has been really well advertised. I was at the new Starbucks in Billerica that just opened this past week, and it was on their community board.
Love it.
And I thought that was so nice. So I do just want to expand on something that Colin said. So the donations that they're accepting, you can drop them off here out in the lobby of the library and town hall or the Center for Active Living by the 6th. They're requesting new only, not used, onesies for newborn to 24 months, sleep sacks, teething toys, pacifiers, baby books, baby blankets, hand-knit baby items, and hand sanitizer. So if you'd like to donate any of those supplies, they are accepting them through the 6th, and then they will be redistributed to the public that needs them. So I think that's really, really lovely. And I'm really pleased to hear about the opioid advertisement at AMC. I think that's a really clever path forward. I know that that's been sort of like we have the settlement money, and how do we effectively make use of that? So that's really great.
Yeah, a big thing for the opiate task force has been identifying ways to effectively get messages out in the community. And this opportunity popped up to work with AMC's marketing department. And, it's a 30-second ad, it's quick, but it drives home resources that are available, which I think is really positive. And I'm happy to share that link to the ad as well with the group. With the
Awesome,
board.
that would be helpful. I'm curious, did AMC reach out to say we have an opportunity to partner with the town about some messaging, or did we, how did that exchange happen, do you know?
I do believe it started with AMC, actually.
nice.
They reached out to, I believe, NIFA, the community group that, services the 4 member communities, who works with the opiate task force as well, just noting that they have services available. And, it took about 2 months to get that, start to finish, but it's been very positive working with them as well.
I'm always really grateful for the ways that we amplify messaging across the community, and doing something like this where it's out where people are is awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your work on that.
Of course.